Hi, I'm Geoff from BlueJam, and today we're going to have a look at the tune You Ain't Gonna Know Me by the fantastic South African musician Moholo-Moholo. You Ain't Gonna Know Me is a piece in the key of concert F major. So for B-flat instruments like trumpets, you'll be playing in the key of G major, and for E-flat instruments like alto saxophones, you'll be playing in the key of D major. So I suggest that you take a minute or two, or days or weeks or months, to have a practice of your scale, major scale, F major, or G major for B flats, or D major for concert instruments. You Ain't Gonna Know Me uses mainly triadic harmony, which is harmony or chords that support the melody that are built using the interval of a third. A triad is just a 3-note chord, so it's 2 thirds, a third like that, stacked with another third on top. And depending whether these thirds are major or minor, we get different qualities of chord. For the most part in You Ain't Gonna Know Me, we'll just be using major triads. So for concert instruments, your major triads are going to be chord 1, chord 4 and chord 5. That will be the same for all instruments. So F major triad, B flat major triad, and C major triad. One more time. One more time. One more time. And once you do that on your 1 chord, do it with your 4 chords and 5 chords as well. Using those 3 major triads, we can effectively harmonise our major scale. So for example, your 5th degree of the scale is the root note of your 5 chord, but it is also the 5th of your 1 chord. And for each note in the major scale, you have at least one option of which major triad to use, 1, 4 or 5. So here's an example of harmonising the major scale using 1, 4 and 5 chords, and it's not the only way to do it. And ascending. We can start to use these three major triads to improvise with in a more fluid way as well. So now as we come to learn the melody for You Ain't Gonna Know Me, it will be useful to think at the same time about how each of the notes in the melody can best be supported by one of those three major triads, chord 1, chord 4 or chord 5. So I'll now play the melody and you can play along to learn it. The melody starts on the 5th degree of the scale. It rises a fourth on the last beat of bar 1 up to the 1st degree, otherwise known as the tonic, F. Bar 2 starts on the 6th, which is a tone higher than your starting note, and then climbs diatonically, which is notes that are within the scale, back up to the tonic. Bar 4 begins on the 2nd degree, G, and jumps a fourth up to the 5th degree, C, which is an octave higher than your starting note. Bar 5 is a pair of descending thirds, so it goes down from the 5th degree to the 3rd, and then from the 3rd down to the 1st. And this part of the melody outlines the tonic triad, which is the triad built on the 1st degree, the tonic, which is F, A, C. Obviously we're descending here, so C, A, F. Bar 6 continues this pattern of descending by a third by going down to the 6th degree. From the 6th, the melody climbs back up diatonically to the tonic, which is the same as in bar 2. I'll play the whole melody another couple of times so that you can play along. So now that we've learnt the melody to You Ain't Gonna Know Me, it's time to have a think about how to best serve that melody with some harmony. And that will be using our three major triads that we've practiced, 1, 4 and 5. A good idea when we're thinking about how to harmonise a melody is to consider which notes actually need the harmony to support them. And in most cases, the notes that we'll be really thinking about are notes that are happening on the strong beat of every bar. So that is beat 1 and beat 3. Let's simplify the melody down a little bit and just play the notes that are happening on beats 1 and 3. And if we're going to have gaps in the melody because we've not played beats 2 and 4, let's extend beats 1 and 3 out to either make minims or semi-breves. I'll demonstrate now. So now try using notes from the triads to support the notes that you've just played, the important notes on beats 1 and 3, and see if you can line those up with other notes from the triads. It might take a few goes to find something you like, but you can experiment. Finally, have a go at using those notes from the 3 major triads, 1, 4 and 5, to improvise a counter melody or harmony line that's a little bit more fluid. So not just sticking to the notes of the triads, but maybe moving between them. And again, you might take a few goes to find something you like, or you might just enjoy to continue experimenting. So have a go. Finally, you might like to have a think about using the chord based on the 6th degree and using it as a minor triad. So in the key of F major, you might think about using your D minor triad, and in G major that would be E minor, and in D major that would be B minor. So minor 6 triad, and this would fit particularly well on the first chord in the 3rd bar. So as the tune goes, on that note you might want to try and harmonise that using the 6 minor chord. Another thing you could try is using some chromaticism, so approaching the notes of the triads from either a semitone above or below, and it works particularly well when you're moving either down or up a series of semitones. So for instance, I hope those are some things to have a go at, and maybe inspire you to do a bit of practicing of major triads.